Morning, good morning. What are we talking about, the weather again? What else is there to talk about these days? Bit of a dreary day. It's going to be cloudy today, which means it's going to be muggy hot this afternoon. We probably won't see the sun, but it's still going to be hot, hot, hot. Good morning, gang. Quieter here the last few days. We're on normally a supposed lockdown again. The bars and restaurants are much, much quieter. There goes the twin. Only one today. Oh, very unusual. Your sister must be not feeling well. Oh, there she goes. Oh, they're not talking to each other this morning. Don't look, don't look, don't look. Happen with twins as well, you know. We're not supposed to watch private stuff to show it's okay. Such is life. Okay, what we've got this morning, it's of course a normal carving stream. We're moving along. There is lots more done. I've spent lots of time the last couple of days on this block. My back is against the wall, so we certainly can't work just in stream time. We started down at the tail a while ago, worked our way up the body. Came over the top. I don't know what you've seen. I don't remember where I left off the other day. You can see to this block. I had to figure out how to use this block. But yesterday afternoon, coming through this, I realized I'm coming up to the face, and I don't know how much we've talked about. I've been sort of making this up a lot as we go along. It's a really poor hunched up. There's sort of the rough big lines are there, but none of the fine lines have come through. And I've been, looking at the original sketch here, even which this is blurred too. And the fact that we have a brown copy, blurry, going onto brown wood, it's been really difficult to see some of the lines. So, thinking about the face, I spent yesterday not carving. I spent all day yesterday tracing. I put this thing back in my iPad, and I traced the face. And last night I printed it out. So we have the face area, instead of being blurry, gray, indistinct lines like this, the face area is now clean and sharp, and we can see everything. This is some of the Gumpy paper. So we're going to paste down, not today, this will be done on probably the next stream, this is Saturday. We're going to paste this down onto the face area. So I'm going to carve around. I'll do this part, I'll come down the leg. Once everything else is carved around it, I'll then mark this to the same registration on the corner, and we'll paste down just the face. It would have been really, really cool to have the whole thing traced sharp and clear, but it took me a full day, more than a day, just to do the face. So it would have taken nearly a week, and it was a week I couldn't afford. And it won't be a big peel. It'll be a little bit of a small thing pasted down and gently rubbed off. There'll be no peel pull. I can't do it till I've got the neighboring areas carved off. So today we're going to carve up here and start working my way down the leg. So it's carving today, carving. For show and tell, we have, it's a pickup. Now we've been working through those 2 or 3 little books. So today we'll look at another one of those books and finish off. So it's not a new, fresh, clean show and tell this morning. You're talking about the pigment on the block as opposed to the tile. When it's a good, rich, thick swab, bang, it goes on the block. If I need to figure out, and if I need to watch how much is going there, I can't tell when it goes on the block. So we put it on the tile. If I'm not using much, if I want to be really careful not to get too much on there, it goes on the tile. So I can see how much, and then I dab a bit. Let's dab a bit more. That looks good. No, let's go and dab a bit more. So having the pigment spread on the tile means I can pick it up, little bit by little bit. Okay, give me a second to get organized. Where are we here? There's lots of ways to do that. Most printers these days use a tile like that, or a block of wood. It's common also for some other printers. I've seen Kubota-san do this. He will swab the pigment into, for example, where am I here? If we were printing here, he'd swab the pigment over here, away from the printing area, then pick it up from there and rub it back into the printing area. Use a tile, and a white tile, because it's really easy to see how much is on there. Second focus. Too bright, eh? Okay, let's get some work done. Paper's out. No paper. No paper's out today. Nobody's here. No printer yesterday, no printer today. Sugi-san will probably be here tomorrow. They're husbanding their time. It's the 2-day, 3-day-a-week thing for the housewives. It's just not. They've both got tons of work to do, but they are rationing their time. I don't want to talk about that. It makes me angry. Just have a nice day today here. Actually, part of it, that's not quite true. Ishikawa-san, she just finished the job. She finished that Kiku print, the chrysanthemum print. And she's now actually officially taking some time off. She and her husband are going for a summer vacation. So Ishikawa-san's off for a week or so now for an actual vacation, not because of working time. So she did a beautiful, beautiful job on that chrysanthemum print, It's I don't think it's an insult to her to say. She's actually a bit surprised herself. She was, when she took on the job, she's like, can I actually do this, And I'm like, yes, I know you can do this. We're okay. We've got a good model. Just take it slow. There's no deadline here. Let's just do this bit by bit, And she made some sample prints first. They came out kind of nice. So she had a bit more confidence, and she went through the main job. And they are beautiful. So beautiful. We got to the end of it, she handed him in to me, and she's like happy, but she can't admit that she's happy about this, but she's happy. So we talked about a future job for later, and I just brought up straight away, you've done this small version really nicely, what do you think later on in the year? Do you want to try the big one? She's like, what do you mean the big one? I said, the big one, the main version of this print, the chrysanthemum print. Lots of people are waiting for it. And she's like, stunned silence. And I think you can do this, let's give it a try. So maybe I'll be able to talk her into this. It's not set yet for sure. And she's not sort of psychologically allowed to say, yeah, I can do that, let's give it a try. But I think she might be willing to give this a try. I thought the Oshibori guys were going to be out of business for a while. Who can he be delivering to? Most of the places are closed, you know. Some of the restaurants are still open, although the idea is that they're not supposed to serve any booze, and they're supposed to close by 8 o'clock. So it's not a blanket shutdown of all restaurants. They're attempting to shut down the drinking culture life part of it, where people will gather in small bars and no masks and drink, and that's the part the lockdown is trying to shut down. So restaurants per se are still open. So. And we've started to see now, we're starting to see it on the ground here. We knew this would happen sometime this week or next week, and we're starting to see it. We saw yesterday tourists here. Tourists, and they are presumably, well, there's no other way they must be. These are people who are here. They've been allowed in for the Olympics. There's no tourist visas being issued at all for Japan now for general tourists. If you showed up at Narita, you're just going to be turned away, get back on your plane, go away. But of course, tens of thousands of people are being allowed in for the Olympics. And we've started to see them here in Asakusa. The hotel across the street, there was a bunch of taxis yesterday came. People jumped out with their bags and they jumped into the hotel. We haven't seen this for a year. And I don't know, there's supposed to be a 2-week quarantine on this, but they get out of the taxi, jump in the hotel. A few minutes later, out they come, strolling around the district. And Watanabe-san was here with me yesterday. She saw this with me too, and she looked at me and I said, don't worry, that door's closed. If somebody tries to come in, just shake your hands, wave your hands, tell them no. It's not a flood yet, but there are. A couple of women we saw walking around yesterday. They're a type that we know here. European, very well dressed, rich. These are rich European ladies. German, Swiss, something, whatever. I have no idea, whatever. And they look like, I guess they're Olympic executive wives, I guess. And they were strolling down the street, so I don't know. We're going to stay close, period. We're not interested in trying to grab a buck from stuff like that. No, thank you. We're staying close. But it certainly looks like quarantine rules are not really being observed. And, I don't know, whatever. Just keep quiet. Can't see what's in there. There's a group, curved ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 7 to the big fat one. 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Can't see them, but we'll just make some lines here. We'll carve some curved lines here. There's no way I could have done the face without tracing it. It would have been a parody of the face, you know. Miscellaneous hair up in the body of the tiger doesn't matter. You just get a bunch of hairs that look like hairs are okay, but the face was different, so that needed tracing. So Dave's going to put up a sign saying no foreigners. We have a simpler solution, we're just closed. We just keep the lights off. Just keep the lights off. Yes, Cameron's mentioning this. I was going to bring it up. It's on my little list of things to mention. Can we have it started here? Yesterday it started for me. The semi. It started yesterday. Have we started this morning? I don't hear one. Did one come up a few minutes ago? We can hear him from the, you can see on the back of those buildings there. It's the park, not a park, it's a garden. And the garden is full of them. So yes, we started the semi yesterday. The image tends to be blurry and shaky when you're carving. It could be because I've got let's back off the camera again. Sometimes the camera bumps into the table and when I bang the table. Okay, let's try and refocus it here then. Just a sec, where am I? Let's find it again. 1 sec. When I'm careless, the tripod of the camera is against the table, so when I bang the table, it bangs the tripod. It seems now we're maybe okay. Thanks for the heads up. Sorry not to catch that earlier. Questions. Oh, too many questions. I can't catch it all. I can't catch half of this, sorry. Let's carve a bit more, see what we can come back. I don't hear now. Was there one earlier? I didn't hear it. Yesterday there were lots. And that means out in Ome, where I live out in Ome, there must be many, many, many. It's a big area. Well, there it is. I hear it now. Yeah. Bzz, 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 bzz. They're here, of course, every summer in Japan, but it's nothing like what the Americans saw last week. This isn't one of those 17-year deals. These are annual insects here. There may be a 17-year type as well here. I don't know about that, but the semi that we see here are an annual type. So it's not the strange, bizarre thing that comes up just once every 17 years. We had an experience with those it's many, many years ago, about 30 years ago or so. We used to go in the summertime, back when I was married and back when her parents were still alive. We used to go to their farm every summer. We'd close our English school when school left out for the holidays, and we'd head to the farm for the last part of July and most of August. This was down in Mie Prefecture, the bottom end of Mie Prefecture, near where it joins Wakayama, the rainiest part of Japan. And one year while we were there, just about that time, there was a typhoon came through, a really, really strong typhoon. And the woods and forests there are being not maintained these days. They were cedar forests, all set up after the war for providing wood for building houses. But over the years, the Australian imports have taken over Canadian and Australian imports. So a lot of the cedar forests in Japan are just left untended. And that was the case in the area where we were. So there were just cedar forests that had been planted, so the trees were all in rows, but they were now just growing wild. Nobody was touching them or harvesting them or doing anything with them. Anyway, a typhoon comes through here, and because these cedar trees have sort of weak branches all the way up that normally would be trimmed off by the caretakers, all these branches got knocked off and thrown to the ground by the typhoon. Enough of them that the ground was covered by this mat. Each one of these branches had some sort of little smaller branches, so it falls down to the ground, another one and another one and another one. And the overlapping things of these cedar needles formed a kind of a mat, and it was as far as the eye could see all across these entire mountains, because everything was in the same condition. So the typhoon comes, these branches fall onto the ground like this. And then, no idea, we're going up there, walking up this path, and then the semi start getting born. They come out of the ground. And they've been under there 1 year or 2 years or 5 years or whatever. I have no idea. They're here annually for us, but how long each insect has been under the ground, I don't know. Anyway, here they are. They're coming up out of the ground, and they can't get up into the air because of these mats of pine needles, of cedar needles. And a few here and there make it through and up into the air. But everywhere as we're walking, there's this muffled everywhere as these things are buzzing underneath these mats, trying to get through these mats of needles up into the air. And like my daughters are, oh my God, look at this, they're going to die. And they start running around, lifting up some branches so the semi can fly up into the air. And they run around, and I'm like, guys, this goes on for miles. There's nothing we can do here. But whatever, there it was. And we just walked through this forest on our way up to the country house there. So. And that year, millions upon millions of them must have died, frustrated, trying to get up into the air, and they couldn't fly. I'm sure enough of them made it that there was enough mating and egg laying, to provide for the next generation. But boy, oh boy, it was a massacre. Absolute massacre. Okay, we've come down the shoulder. This is the head now. This is the top of the head, and that's going to be in the next stream when we carve from pasting down. So I'm going to leave that for now. Those are ears. We're going to leave the ears. We'll carve this leg to this point, and then the head will be pasted on later. So let's divide this here. And I'll now work my way down this part. As an English teacher, did I ever teach people to say this is a pen? No, you're talking about something that was in vogue before I was even born. Early textbooks would have that kind of stuff years and years and years ago. In my own English teaching, we use no textbooks. The kids who came to me for English, this is back in the late 1980s. I closed my school in 1991. The kids who came to my English classes were already getting English training in school. They had textbook training, grammar training. They had all the, this is a pen. They had that in school. So the kids that came to me for fluency training, conversation training, taking their knowledge and trying to help them get it out of their brain and into their mouth and out into the air. So no, we didn't do anything like that at all. We simply verbalized. My classes were aimed at getting their mouths open and getting them talking. So no grammar. We had no pens, no textbooks, no paper, no nothing. My challenge was to create guide materials that would help them say things, that would help them formulate ideas and speak. My God, that's a long time ago now, though. 1991. I taught from 86 to 91 at home. It was good fun, hard work. Man, it was hard work. Difficult to see this stuff, isn't it? We had enough room in a Japanese home to have any students. We had a normal, what's called a Japanese 3DK, 3DK, which was, it's 3 rooms and then a DK, a dining kitchen. So one of the rooms was 4.5 mats, and 2 of the rooms, 6 mat, 6 mat. And one of the 6 mat rooms was our quote unquote classroom. The classroom simply meant it was an open tatami room. We prepared some cushions, and that's it. And each class was limited to 6 people. The kids would come in groups of 4, 5, or 6 at a time. We've got the cushions in a circle around me. I'm at one side of the room with my cushion, and the kids are on 6 cushions. And we went from there, and each class, you've got kids there, so it's no good having free talking. And with adults, you can have sort of conversational practice because they can already talk to you, and you simply have to refine what's going on. But with elementary school and middle school kids, you can't sit there and say, hello, let's talk, because they don't know how to talk yet. They've got some grammar in their heads, but they don't know how to talk. So the classes were structured in a way that I provided visual materials that would make them, let them, provide them with the ability to speak. It's a guided conversation model. I didn't invent it, but it worked really, really, really well. The kids spent most of each class actually physically talking. And on the occasions when mothers sat in, they were shocked. They've had this kid who's been going to English class at school, but who doesn't say anything except this is a pen. And they hear their kid. The mother sits at the back of the room, and they hear their kid talking. And this happened all the time. We'd get to the end of the class, and the mothers come in and speak to us. And the mother says to the kid in Japanese, I didn't know you could speak English. What's going on? You never told me this. And the kid says, well, I didn't really, whatever, Because our whole class, every time, was devoted to exercises, getting them to open their mouths and make the sounds, Guided conversation, it's called. Man, it's a million years ago for me now. A million years ago. Okay, where are we? We've got a piece here with 1, 2, 3, 4 up top and 2 down the bottom. Here we are, 4 up top and 2 down the bottom. Let's do this. I hear the sound of bottles and cans and stuff. I did get mine out last night. Was my experience that the kids picked up on English quickly? No, there's nothing like that. I know it's very, very individual. There was individual kids who were interested and who wanted to do it, motivated. Of course, they would run through this. The other ones didn't want to be there. Their mother had sent them or something. They didn't want anything to do with it. They sat there with their head bowed. It was my job to try and wake it up for them. So no, there's no single experience, In general, we tried to keep a light mood and a happy mood in the classroom, and it didn't really think of it as a classroom. So for the most part, I think that the kids enjoyed what they were doing at my place, but the results, there's no specific case by case. And the kids who got best at it were the ones who were also paying attention to their normal classes in school and stuff like this. So the kids who were motivated were speaking English, but not purely because of my efforts. All the different areas that they were seeing this. They watched movies on TV and you name it. But for me doing it, it was a little bit like cherry picking because I didn't have to do examination training. I wasn't working for the school district. This was just parents who had sent their kids to me to help them talk. So I wasn't helping them with exam prep or anything. So I didn't have to worry about, do they need to know the 7th declination of the past blah blah, nothing like that. We were allowed to have fun using the language. I wouldn't have taken a job any other way. But the preparation, my God, the preparation. I taught Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Sunday, Monday, we're off my own time. And Tuesday was preparation day for that week. I had to prepare all my lesson plans for that week. So, and all the material's still there. It's in Ome in the basement there. Box after box after box after box after supplementary materials and lesson plans. Where am I? 4 up, 2 down. There's isolated 2, 2, 2, 2, 2 on top of that one. So we go down here. You hear the garbage down there, you can hear the glass, right? You hear the guy sorting out the glass. He's putting the clear glass and the colored glass into different containers ready for the truck that's going to come any minute now to pick it up. And you don't hear the sound of cans rattling. That's because there's no cans left already. The recycled containers were put out last night by the city garbage crews. They come along the Wednesday evening and put out the containers. And we, the residents of this particular block and district, we put our cans and bottles in there during the evening, during the night, and by 8 o'clock in the morning. But during the night, of course, the scavengers hit. And they're not interested in the bottles. I guess there's no money in glass. I don't know the details here. But the scavengers hit, and they clear out all the cans. So that you don't hear any cans rattling down there right now, because by the time the city truck gets here, those cans are gone. So what's left is glass and the cardboard paper stuff. And there are sometimes fights about this, different homeless guys scooping through these cans, and they're fighting about them sometimes. What's somebody asking now? The carved part is at the bottom of the screen. Yeah, that's where it's supposed to be, isn't it? It's a question of where it's going to focus. If we move it up too high, it doesn't focus. Let's try it. Whatever. When we get to the carving of the face in the next session here, it's going to be clearer because the face has no background, so it's all going to be much sharper, clearer lines. You'll be able to see much more clearly what I'm actually carving. It's really too bad that there was no time to trace this whole thing, It's something actually now that we are thinking it's maybe time to start outsourcing that. And it's a bit late to the party here, but I really should have done that. There are lots of people here in Japan who have pretty good skill with the brush. Way more than me, of course. Calligraphy teachers, etc., etc. And it should be possible for us to find someone like that, a calligraphy teacher, who wanted work, extra work or something, and get her to trace this kind of stuff. We could provide large blow-ups, 400% enlargements, and then gumpy paper and a light table if necessary. And the idea being that this person who has really, really good brush skill would do the tracing job, because it's hugely time-consuming. But once you've got a good, clear tracing, it's so much better for the carving. And so far, it's been me and Chon-san and Rei-chan, the three of us have been doing this. I did it yesterday. I spent all day tracing just that face. And every minute that we spend tracing is a minute that we don't spend carving, So it might be time now to think about outsourcing that. Looks like a shot from the surface of Mars or something. Can't tell what's going on. We're not talking about tracing them in Illustrator. We're talking about tracing to the extent that somebody with really knowledge of brush strokes. This has got to be someone who is Japanese or Chinese, who has been drawing calligraphy since the day one. This is not Illustrator type vector tracing or something here. We're talking about tracing in the sense of catching or creating the inner essence of the brush strokes. We talked about it before. The front side of the line, the back side of the line are different. We really need a calligrapher, an experienced calligrapher. In this one, somebody's asking here, did I draw the Stein for this one? No, I didn't. We photocopied this one. That's the problem. It's photocopied from a poor quality master. Ah, domo, arigatou gozaimasu. 誰からですね? Oh, it's the first batch of Patreon chibis. It's from Kawai-san, Mr. K. So the first couple of hundred people who've been waiting months and months and months for their Patreon chibis, the chibi prints for the Patreon. This is the first batch has now arrived. We're going to need 600, 700, 800 of those. So now the blocks will go to another printer. There are going to be some people, they've been, oh my God, they've been waiting for this for ages. Patreon chibis. This is not Kubota-san. This is not the machine. This is Kawai-san working for us, Mr. K, not Kubota. This is a different gentleman whose name starts with K. Our employee here, Kawai-san, is not yet a machine. Sorry to report. Maybe one day, but not yet, not even close. And he would be embarrassed that you were even suggesting such a thing. So this is Kawai-san, not Kubota-san. Not sure confused about people. K, he thought he retired. This is Kawai Atsushi. Maybe those of you who visited here, you saw him. He used to be one of our print party hosts. He also worked upstairs as a printer. He's now working at home as a printer. No more print parties. This is Kawai Atsushi. We have two Kawais here. We have Kawai Chiharu, young lady, single mother with a child working in Nagano as a printer. And then this is Kawai Atsushi. Noisy out there today. there's actually going to be more noise coming now. The last couple of days we've had a suspicion about something, and it seems yesterday we learned. The little empty shop across the street, the one that was a real estate agent for the past 5 or 6 years, it's been empty now for a couple of years. The one next to the bag lady's shop. There's been a bunch of interest in it. Man, it's noisy out there. Should I turn off the outside mic? It's noisy in here. Anyway, there's been a bunch of interest. There's people looking at that place, and yesterday it seems like a couple of trucks came up. People jumped out from construction companies. They went in there, they measured, photographed, measured, and I suspect construction will start now sometime. So there's some kind of new shop coming in there. And this is Japan. I can't just wander over there and say, "Hi guys, hey, look, what's going to be going?" You know, you can't do that. So we just have to wait and see. But we'll be getting new neighbors. So hope it's something tasty. So noisy today. And can't even see what's going on there now. Now, this is the situation that I was faced with when I made that last video. The video where I tried to show the printing process and all the sounds of the printing, you know. This is just what it's like here in Tokyo. Just all day long. There's trucks and construction and banging and crap. There's whatever, 35 million people here, and you know it. We know it. And even in those videos that I made at 3 to 4 to 5 o'clock in the morning, there's still so much background noise. You know? Peace and quiet for a few minutes, maybe. Who knows? Wouldn't it be funny if a rival printing shop opened up across the street? We've talked about this before. You know, every time there's a new shop opening, we're thinking maybe it'll be a woodblock print shop. You know, we want this. We want this. You know, in the old days, it's still there a little bit. There's a district called Jimbocho. It's the used book district, and there used to be a bunch of shops there that sold prints and stuff. You know, old prints, not publishing. And there still are. There's a couple of places there that still do prints, but there used to be easily a dozen. And because there were so many shops in the same area dealing in this, anybody who had an interest in this goes right straight away to that street. And the fantasy here is that if this street could become such a thing, you know. So it's no joke. If next door was a print shop and across the street was a print shop and they were all print shops, that would be my idea of Tokyo heaven. You know. We have no problem with competition. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Vivid KP open up across the street. Can you afford it? This place is getting so expensive now, you know. So expensive. If we lost this building, we'd never ever be able to come to Asakusa. Absolutely not. I haven't got any recent statistics, but going some months back, there was a story about land values and tax values and stuff like that. And it mentioned that after many years of huge increase, land prices overall in Tokyo were starting to fall. It's the depopulation. At some point, it has to have an effect. And overall land prices have now switched from the inexorable increase to a gradual decrease. That's overall prices. Area by area, it's different. And it keyed specifically 3 zones within Tokyo as being in opposition to the downward trend. There's 3 areas in Tokyo where land prices were still on a strong upward trend. One was Ginza Nihonbashi area, huge commercial area. The other one was on the other side of town there, the Harajuku Omotesando area, another staggeringly busy area for commercial. And of course, you know the point of the story, number 3 was Asakusa, which for years has been sleepy for generations, all the post-war period. The temple has been busy, but the district has been sleepy. It's been old-fashioned. It was known as a place for old men to come and place bets at the racetrack and get drunk. It was known for the love hotels, and some businessman would bring his secretary here to get drunk and get laid. This was the point of this district for all the 1960s and 70s and 80s and 90s. And it has now dramatically changed. Anybody who has an image of that old Asakusa, whatever, erase it, because that's not what it is now. Absolutely. And it's changing daily. It's very much gone upmarket. The clientele now are younger. They are more female. They spend a ton of money, it seems, and there are shops everywhere now that cater to these young ladies. And this has been exacerbated or increased, whatever, now in the past year, because the tourists have suddenly been taken out of the equation. The overseas tourists, they're removed from the equation now, and nobody knows where they're going to get back. And most of Asakusa is not waiting. There's buildings being rebuilt, reconstructed. If somebody came back here, if this keeps up, if somebody came back in another 10 years, they would not recognize anything here. Just the temple in the middle. That's the only thing you'd know that was the same. It's a new generation taking over. It's just the way things go. The numbers that are involved are staggering. Any of you guys that have been here might know that in the back street behind us, the building directly behind our building, it used to be an empty lot. The earlier building was torn down just before we came here. Then in the same year that we had our place started here, 2014, a little triangular wooden building was built to fill that lot. And it was rented to somebody who tried to open an Italian bistro. It lasted a year or so. It was in the back alley. He didn't have good social media. Nobody saw it. It was dead on arrival. The lot was then empty for a couple of years. The building was then empty for a couple of years. And then maybe, I don't know exactly, 2 years ago, it was rented to somebody who was going to try again. These guys were trying Taiwanese bubble tea, which is a thing that seems to, I thought, was sort of out and passé, but it is very much an up-and-coming thing still here in Asakusa, this bubble tea, from the famous shops. And you've got to be famous in your home country. You've got to have a famous shop in Taiwan or Korea. And then you open here with the same brand name, and all the young Japanese girls here want to try it. They've heard about that famous place in Taiwan or Korea, whatever, and they want to try that bubble tea. So these places are big. But this guy apparently didn't have the social media, didn't get it worked well enough, didn't have the Instagram or whatever it was that's necessary. And they have run away. Yonige. Yoru, nighttime. Nigeru, run away. And normally when you leave a building after your tenant, you return it to skeleton status. We saw that down the street. The Fujiyama, the tourist place, they gave up and they gutted the building and returned it to the owner in its concrete skeleton status. These guys just ran away. And the reason we can tell this is because the owner has put out these pamphlets, suddenly available, on the market, fresh, and he's got all the photographs. And inside, there's all the cooking equipment, there's chairs and tables, there's cups and saucers, there's bubble tea cups standing on the counter in the photographs. They just zipped and they're gone. And the guy's got this, your chance to get this, already renovated and refurbished, which to me is a normal way it should be done, but whatever, that's another story. The price, the thing there, it's I don't know the square meters, it's tiny. It's a tiny triangular room, 2/3 of which are taken up by the counter, and then upstairs is a place to sit. Mostly you get your tea, you stand outside. There's just no place to stand and sit and do this. And it's 460,000 yen per month rent. 460 before tax, which is 10% tax. What's that? 460,000 yen. You have $4,000, just over $4,000 per month to rent. And to get the thing, you have to pay 1 month's rent in advance. Then you need to pay 2 months key money. It's called, I don't know, what's this called? Neikin, present money for the landlord. And then you've got to pay 10 months guarantee money. So you've got to pay the 10 months guarantee, which theoretically you get back, but nobody ever does because they find a scratch on the wall and that's it. You're not going to get anything back. The 10 months guarantee money, 2 months key money, 1 month in advance. That's 10, 11, 12, 13 times 460,000. I can't do this anymore, just a sec. 13 times 460,000, that's 5.9 million. Oh, times tax, times 1.1. It's 6.57 million yen, which in dollars is $65,000. Just to get the key and get in there. Just to get in there. And it's the back street. No social media, no business. So I don't know. Good luck to you. But this is an indication of what rents are now like in Asakusa. The only word for it is they are insane. They are insane. The little place where the print shop abandoned, what was it, 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago, the print shop left. The sign on their door. It's a similar story. It's about the same level as rent. I forget the exact number, 480,000. Same thing. 2 months gift, 1 month rent, 10 months. The landlords they've seen this increase, and anybody who owns property here has just become, that their eyes are just full of dollar signs. And we are lucky, lucky, lucky. Our landlady doesn't see that stuff, doesn't know it, doesn't care about it. She wants a steady, stable tenant to like pay her retirement pension or whatever, I don't know. We are so lucky in that sense. I don't like using the word luck. We work hard for what we get. But in that one instance, I can't deny it. That she exists is so lucky for us. We wouldn't be here without that. Look at this bottom one. It's clear all the way on the bottom. It's waverly wiggly, and then inside there's 3 scoops, 4 scoops. How's our time? We okay? 9:07 already. God, I've done nothing today. So the landlady, keep her locked up without a TV, We really don't know how much she knows and how much she doesn't know. I mean, we're not being evil here. She is, she owns property, so presumably she knows what it's worth and what's going on. And those of you who know the Thai, her family, her grandfather was a major woodblock printer / publisher back in the Thai early Showa eras. So she grew up in a woodblock environment like this. She married somebody and then left that family. No part of her life. She's not a woodblock printmaker or anything like this, but her grandfather was in this business. And the fact that we are here in the same district doing the same thing, she just loves this, and we are very happy to cooperate and do what we can. Every now and then in our auctions and stuff, we find prints that were made by her grandfather. We've pointed these out sometimes. We've given her some of these, and so she's happy with what we're doing. Do we ever think about selling the place? I don't own this place. We're a tenant here. I can't sell this building. We are a tenant. A tenant. Someone's having practical questions and send them to Messenger. I don't know what you mean there. I don't use any message stuff at all. I'm not. If you mean Facebook, I won't be seeing it there. I don't see messages. If you need to contact us, use one of the email addresses on the website, and if then it gets looked at by the staff and it will come through to me maybe. But I don't use any messaging services, I'm sorry. But if your questions are about how to make woodblock prints, I'm not the person to ask. We are busy here publishing and making prints. If you have questions about how prints are made and like how much paste you should be putting on and stuff like that, go over to the, what's it called? I forget the name of the page. The Acolytes page. There's going to be a link here. The robot here is a link, and there's people over there that really, really can spend time with you on that kind of a question. But we're not in any position to start conversation with how do I make woodblock prints. I'm sorry. Cameron has a resource list. If you write to us at one of the email addresses on the website, Cameron, who's on the stream here today, he's got a resource list he can send to you. Someone's saying, I made it through. Well, I did get a vaccination, but is that a guarantee now? I don't think so. Every day in the news now, I'm reading stories about people who have been vaccinated but are still getting caught with this. So I'm not sure what to think about this. I was sort of planning that now that I'm vaccinated, I was going to. We talked about it the other day. I was thinking about joining the health center down the street and starting swimming every morning, but I think it's better to hang on for a while. So being vaccinated, and especially when you're one of the few who are vaccinated, it's probably not a good idea to get out and about too much. So I don't know. I'm going to sit tight for a while. But I really, really, really want to get some exercise. And there's a fitness club and health center right down the street. They have a morning plan, 7 to 9. So hit that at 7 o'clock, get a swim, get a shower, head back here for the stream. I really, really, really would like to do that, but it's perhaps too soon. What was that strange news from Korea yesterday, the day before, where the fitness centers have been ordered, don't do anything with a beat more than 120 beats per minute or something. Apparently, if you exercise too quickly, you sweat more and you're going to die. I don't know the rationale, but it was bizarre news from Korea yesterday. Get your fitness, but get it slowly. Okay, show and tell. Show and tell, show and tell, show and tell. Oh, Cameron is in there. Are you in there? Eligible to sign up for a lottery to schedule it in August. Oh my God. You're going to go through the same thing that I did. Cameron's on. Oh. It was a true story, right? They banned music above 120 beats per minute. I'm not sure if that's a bizarre story, if this makes sense. I don't really know. I really, really don't know. I have no idea. What a bizarre, bizarre world we're living in, Hopefully. The power drink. The power drink. All day long. Okay. The other day for show and tell, we looked at the back half of the album that I showed you some days previously. I have still a bunch of albums sitting here. So we're going to look today at the back half of the album that I showed some weeks previous to that. I'm not sure what we looked at and what we didn't look at. I'm going to try and crack this and see where we were. And in fact, I might get this wrong. What did we see and what didn't we see? I think we saw this side of the album, right? We had Mandarin Ducks, did we? I don't remember which side we looked at. No, we saw this side. I remember this thing. We saw this side, the show. It's been so long, I cannot remember. We did. We saw this side. I remember this guy. I remember these scenes. Kajida Hanko. Yes. We saw this side. So let's flip this over. Like it makes any difference. I don't know. So it looks like this is the side that we didn't see. No, the Flying Cranes was in a different book. That was in this book. This is not. This is the school students' Tehon book. The book of paintings designed for school students to use as models for painting. I don't know if we've seen it or not. What kind of a mess we're in now. Let's go through. If somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. We're on in repeats. I'm trying to clear my desk here. We looked at the front half of this book, but didn't get a chance to look at the back half. No, we haven't seen this. It's different cranes. We haven't seen this. This is the famous Kajda Hanko, or his studio. They must have done a ton of work for the school system. These were images prepared for school textbooks to hand out. Tehon, like handbook, exactly. In fact, the characters are te, the character for hand, and the character for book, tehon. And they are models for drawing. And you can have tehon for art like this, or you can have tehon for calligraphy or sutras or whatever. It's a model that you will then try and copy as closely as you can, line for line. Nothing scientific about this. This is for art class, trying to teach the young ladies, or maybe the boys too, I don't know, trying to teach the kids how to use a brush. And this is not for the beginners. This is not what they would try step one. And this is very much a Meiji era sensibility. This is nothing like the Edo era, nothing to do with ukiyo-e. The roots of this kind of drawing would be in something called haiga. Haiga. Drawings that would illustrate haiku poetry. This is the closest analogy to what this style of drawing is. Nothing to do with the old ukiyo-e whatsoever. What have we got there? You tell me. What are we looking at here? I can't even tell what this is. Yeah, there's realism, but not scientific realism. They're trying to draw things that would have the essence of the character. So real it would be, but not in any way scientifically real. It would be, what's the word, artistically real. I don't know. I mean, it's more real than the old ukiyo-e. The leaf would be aged. In ukiyo-e, you would never have seen something like this. And you can absolutely see how this could be good training. You'd get your blank sheet of paper, your deck of paper, you try drawing the stroke of this, and you try it again, you try it again, you try it again. You've got this model on your desk. And again, to re-emphasize what we talked about the other day, what we're looking at here at the moment are woodblock prints, but they were not designed to be teaching printmaking. The ideal is that when these people are learning how to draw art and use their brush, the teacher would draw some strokes, the students would copy. The teacher would draw some strokes, the students copy. But because we're all of a sudden in an age of complete compulsory education across the country, there were no teachers for every kid in every classroom. So these books were prepared through the medium of woodblock printmaking to provide painting examples for the students. The fact that they were woodblock prints is not important. It was just the technique of getting them out into the classrooms. Everything is printed, you see, everything. Somebody said yellow background. I didn't see, was there a yellow background? I'm not sure what you mean by yellow, but no. Whatever, the backgrounds. I don't know how much of this is paper color. This paper is really, really, really aged. What you're seeing here, I believe, is paper color. It's almost impossible to tell. There'll be almost no embossing on these. They were printed on very thin, very casual paper. The paper is extremely thin, like the kind of paper that was used for making books. So there's no body for it, no relief for leaving an embossing. It would have probably been white back in 18 whatever it was, or 1910, whatever it was, but it is no longer white. This is junk paper for sure. Again, big name. Hanko, Kajita Hanko. Swing picture here. No, that's upside down, show. You can see a student trying this, how do you get it wrong? As long as you make some strokes that sort of look like a stone and sort of look like water, you're good to go. I mean, you're not going to get this wrong. Where were we? Which way round? Now I'm lost. Which way around were we? Did it go this way or this way? It was this way. It's simple stuff, but actually I think this is difficult. You try drawing something like this with your brush. This is not easy. This is not easy at all. What's the word? What would somebody say? Catch the essence of something with as few brush strokes as possible. This is not easy. There's no hokusai feeling. Somebody's mentioned hokusai was a master. I guess so, yes. But there's no hokusai feeling in stuff like this at all. There's no... it's very different. When we think about the hokusai work in the hokusai manga and stuff, this might be difficult to express. What we're seeing in that picture is hokusai. It's all about the guy. He's full of himself. I don't say that in a bad way at all. Hokusai is full of himself. Here is my eagle, and it's a hokusai eagle. Here in this kind of book, I don't get that. That wasn't the motivation. That wasn't the reason for doing this, and it's not what we're seeing. We're seeing very generic stuff. I'm sure there is. If somebody knew the names of all these guys, they would recognize the different tone and sensibility. I'm sure, but it's not about the artist like the hokusai stuff was. This is an illustrator doing his work in a sort of more of a background way, I think. I may be wrong on this, but I don't think so. A real expert would be able to tell you which one of these is Hanko, which one is the next guy, which is the next guy. I guess I can't do that. I'm seeing them in a very generic way. But that's the job. That's the nature of what this work was. Hokusai, a few strokes and you get an animal. Yes, of course. The guy had technique. Oh my God. If there had been a competition, how few strokes can you put on the paper to make something come into real life? Hokusai, I'm sure. He had that book, Ippitsu Gafu, image collection, Ippitsu, one stroke. And there's a book of his, and that's the deal. You get your brush ready, and you make, there's a rabbit. It's one stroke drawing. Hokusai was famous for this. I like this one. These are not all masterworks, of course. Look at this poor turtle hung up from the string there. I do not think that's much of an expert turtle, but what do I know? No, the gradations. This is full of gradations, absolutely, because they're trying to teach watercolor painting and watercolor wash. It's not flat color like the ukiyo-e. The ukiyo-e was black lines, flat color. Everything you see here is gradation. These leaves have gradations. The crab has 6 gradations. Tons of work to print. Absolutely tons of work to print. Do I have any of the original Hokusai manga? No, I do not. That's out of my pay grade. I'm sorry. I had a chance when we were here in Japan, I don't know, 1970 76 or 7 or 78 or 79 or something, I don't remember. I came with a music store. We were buying flutes and saxophones in Taiwan. We stopped in Tokyo to buy some flutes from a company called the Iwao Flute Company, long, long gone. I went to Harashobo in Jimbocho. This is before I really knew much about Japanese prints at all. And they had a copy of the Hokusai Fugaku Hyakke, the 3 volumes that make up Hokusai's famous 100 Views of Fuji. And it was Juman yen, 100,000 yen. And today I would have that as fast as is humanly possible. I would have that money out of my pocket. It's like free, absolutely free. But at that time, I was, trying to make a living. I had a little salary. I didn't have much money. I let it go. The biggest regret in my life. Is it broken? Did I pull the cord? Testing. 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me now? Is the mic live or is it gone? I knocked the cord. Looks to be plugged in. It's back. Look at this one. Okay, class, today's lesson is this is renkon, lotus root. These are, I guess, some kind of cucumber or zucchini, you tell me, and this is a lotus root. I don't think they're sea cucumbers. I don't think they would have access to that. I think this is a plant that grows, I think. Don't know. And classic stuff, flowers, classic stuff. These are beautiful. Simple, quiet, clean, tasty, and beautiful, There's also stuff, I don't know if you can see it, there's a lot of detail here that we're not really catching. For example, on this flower, the back side of the petal has another color as compared to the front side. There's a fair amount of detail here, It's a bit faded. There's a yellow-green tint on the back of that petal, and we have it the same thing in and among here. So we're not quite catching all this, I'm sorry. We talked before about this last week when I showed you the first half of this book. They're glued down onto a terrible paper, and they're just waiting for me to throw the whole thing in a bathtub, wait a couple of hours till it all falls apart, and then press the prints flat. This is more similar to the old ukiyo-e. Look at this. Outlines and flat color. That actually almost looks like an ukiyo-e print. As opposed to the difference here. Look at this. No outlines and vivid gradation. There's sort of your two styles side by side. Whoa, look at this. Some of these are fun. Look at this. How do you do this? If you were the student who's trying to do this with a brush, you got your base green, then you get each of your brush strokes and it's supposed to fade out at the same place? Really? This is warabi. warabi. I forget, it's a fiddlehead, is that the English name? Warabi is the fern. My wife was nuts about this stuff. She could not get enough warabi. Again, big name again. This is the name we're seeing more than anything else in here. Kajitahanko. That must have been his biggest job. Simple, lots of white space, gradations. It's a funny one. Someone's saying they look like they're taken from Dimpa work. Well, this is, of course, the derivation of these is not, as we said, it's not ukiyo. It's painting, it's brush painting. I'm not in any way an expert on all different schools and stuff, but this is a painting manual. It's nothing to do with prints. Okay, there's tons and tons more, but let's wrap it up here because I do really have to get back to work here. So let's wrap it up. Here's the last pair. Let's look at these two. Seasonal Touch Wisteria. Someone's saying, can we cut a wood block to look that much like a dry brush? This is all wood blocks. Everything you see here is cut on wood. The shape that you're seeing here is cut on a piece of wood and then replicated by the printer. We can very much cut dry brush, very much. Okay, let's leave her there. I've got to get out of here. I've got to get some work done. It's been a bit of a scrappy stream today. Sorry, I know the work that you saw me doing is really not interesting. I've got to get through it. I'm sorry. I've got to get through that tiger. Another week should see the end of it, and then we're off color blocks, and I'll be doing something else from about 10 days from now. So the current work is not so fun. Sorry. Got to do what we got to do. Okay, there we have it. So today's Thursday. I'll be back 2 more days from now on Saturday morning, as always, of course, with another stream. And I don't think I'll be finished the tiger by then. I'll be carving the face, I believe. Maybe if it takes me all day today to carve that leg, perhaps we're going to paste down the face on Saturday morning. I don't know. I didn't say crappy. I said scrappy. Scrappy. Crappy, I don't know. A scrappy stream, I'm sorry. Anyway, here we are. I have to get going now. See you in a couple more days, Saturday morning. Thanks very much for cooperating, and I'll try and catch up with the chat a little bit at lunchtime. Signing off now. See you in a couple more days. Bye for now. Thank you. This is now the truck picking up the bottles. The previous bottle sound we heard was the advanced man. He sorted it, put the clear bottles in one bin, the blue bottles in another bin, stuff like that. And now this is the pickup guy dumping them into the containers on his truck. And they will be out of here in a minute or so. Okay, signing off for now. Bye for now.